Who was Osho? A flame that burned without permission. To ask who Osho was is already to miss something essential, because Osho was not an answer. He was an interruption, a pause in the middle of inherited thinking, a silence that entered the room and made every borrowed belief feel suddenly loud. Known to the world as Osho, he never wanted to be remembered as a guru, a prophet, or a savior. Titles, he believed, were cages, and truth, if it is alive, cannot be caged. He came into a world deeply invested in certainty, and he offered doubt. A world obsessed with becoming, and he spoke of ending. A world searching for meaning outside, and he pointed relentlessly inward. Osho did not bring a new religion. He came to expose the ancient habit of hiding behind religion itself. A childhood of watching, not following. From a very young age, Osho was less interested in answers than in awareness. He observed people, how they spoke, how they obeyed, how they pretended certainty while carrying fear beneath their words. Even as a child, he questioned rituals not with rebellion, but with curiosity. Why do people repeat prayers they do not feel? Why does morality feel more like fear than love? Why does society reward obedience but punish intelligence? These questions did not make him popular, but they made him awake. Osho grew up understanding something most people realize far too late. Society trains behavior, not consciousness. It teaches what to think, not how to see. And that difference became the axis of his entire philosophy, the core insight. Awareness changes everything. At the heart of Osho's teachings was a radical simplicity. Awareness is the only true transformation. Not self-improvement, not discipline, not control. Awareness. He believed that most of human suffering comes not from life itself, but from living unconsciously, from repeating patterns without seeing them, from reacting instead of responding, from carrying yesterday into today without question. According to Osho, you don't need to fight anger. You don't need to suppress desire. You don't need to escape fear. You need to see. When anger is seen totally, it loses energy. When fear is watched without judgment, it weakens. When thought is observed, it slows. And in that slowing, silence appears. This was not a philosophy of becoming better. It was a philosophy of becoming real. Meditation, not escape, but encounter. Osho redefined meditation for the modern human being. He saw clearly that contemporary life had left people fragmented, restless, emotionally repressed. Asking such a mind to sit silently was not wisdom, it was violence. So he said, first, let the chaos speak. His meditations were dynamic, expressive, sometimes wild. Crying, laughing, shaking, dancing, breathing deeply, not for spectacle, but for honesty. Because before silence there must be truth. Before stillness there must be authenticity. Meditation to Osho was not about reaching peace. It was about meeting yourself without lies. And when you meet yourself fully, peace is no longer a goal. It becomes a side effect. Doubt as sacred, not sinful. One of Osho's most unsettling teachings was his reverence for doubt. Where religions demanded belief, he offered skepticism. Where traditions punished questioning, he celebrated it. To Osho, doubt was not negativity. It was intelligence refusing to be hypnotized. He urged people to doubt scriptures, teachers, ideologies, even him. If you believe me, you have failed, his presence seemed to say. If you see for yourself, you are free. This was deeply threatening to institutions built on obedience. But to seekers suffocating under borrowed truths, it felt like oxygen. Love without possession. Osho spoke about love in a way that disturbed romantic illusions. He saw how love had been entangled with ownership, fear, jealousy, and dependence. To him, most so-called love was not love. It was mutual need. Real love, he said, arises from fullness, not lack, from freedom, not fear, from sharing, not clinging. He questioned marriage not to destroy commitment, but to expose how often commitment becomes a polite prison. He questioned jealousy, not to justify betrayal, but to reveal insecurity masquerading as care. Love, in Osho's vision, was expansive. It did not shrink the individual. It allowed both people to grow. And growth, he believed, was the only real loyalty. Pleasure, presence, and the sacred ordinary. Osho rejected the ancient split between spirituality and life. He saw how humanity had been taught to worship suffering and distrust joy. Why must silence be serious? Why must holiness be sad? Why must the body be condemned for the mind to feel pure? To Osho, life itself was sacred. Eating, loving, walking, laughing, if done consciously, were as spiritual as any prayer. He did not glorify indulgence. He glorified presence. And presence, when total, turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. Controversy as a side effect of truth. Osho was controversial not because he sought conflict, but because truth is uncomfortable to systems built on fear. He unsettled governments, religions, and moral authorities simply by refusing to submit to collective hypnosis. He did not offer slogans. He did not promise salvation. He did not flatter the ego. Instead, he exposed the subtle ways power controls consciousness, through guilt, reward, tradition, and fear of exclusion. Many misunderstood him. Some opposed him fiercely. But misunderstanding was inevitable, for Osho spoke not to the crowd, but to the individual hidden within it. Beyond the man, beyond the words, perhaps Osho's most important teaching was this: do not cling to me. He reminded people again and again that truth is not transferable, that no teacher, however brilliant, can walk your inner path for you. He wanted no followers, only friends in awareness. Osho the man died in 1990, but Osho the question remains alive. Each time you pause before reacting, each time you notice a thought instead of believing it, each time you choose awareness over habit. Why Osho still speaks today? In a world drowning in noise, speed, and borrowed opinions, Osho feels almost dangerously relevant. He does not offer comfort. He offers clarity. He does not say, "Follow me." He says, "Look." And that invitation, simple, silent, uncompromising, continues to echo, not as doctrine, not as dogma, but as a quiet flame asking each of us, are you awake or merely